Auburn heads to Gainesville, and they've got their hands full.
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into a special crossover edition of Locked On Auburn and Locked On Gators. I'm Zach Blackerby of Locked On Auburn. He is Brandon Olson of Locked On Gators. Trolling starting early. Look, Auburn heads to Gainesville to take on a Florida team that seems to be finding itself, seems to be playing some really good basketball. And Auburn, despite winning their last two outings, has shot awful from behind the arc. That has to change, Brandon, if Auburn wants to pull the upset in Gainesville on the road on Saturday.
Yeah, I think that this has the potential to be a game. There might be a rebound record set in this one. If these teams are going to shoot from the perimeter, I know Florida's gotten better, but Florida's shooting like 28% from three. And they're like, oh, we're getting really good at this thing. And it's like, no, you're not. You're still one of the worst. So I think this team or this game could just be Brick City, honestly.
Interesting. Yeah, going into conference play, one of the big concerns I had for Auburn has been, okay, there's just going to be teams that they play in the SEC where they're going to be bullied inside from a roster point of view. Over the last few weeks, Keyshawn Murphy for Auburn has played significantly better, surprisingly so from my point of view. Philip Jovic has played much better down low. Sway, the true freshman, has played much better down the stretch. And I wonder how much of that has to do with the other rosters that they're facing. Because now they face a Florida roster who has the dues to bully guys down low. So I'm curious to see what that matchup looks like.
Yeah, I think the battle on the glass is going to be just wild because Florida right now, first in offensive rebound percentage allowed in the SEC, and Auburn second in both categories. So this is going to be they're going to go to war on the glass. And like Ruben Chinyelu has been on an absolute tear for Florida lately at 21 rebounds last game. In 23 minutes played, 21 rebounds is just insane. He's been a beast. I do think that with any team, I feel like if you just send more guards at the rim, like it's going to be tough. Because Chinyelu, you watch the game, and Chinyelu is getting rebounds over three players at the same time. And it's like, all right, he's just a dude. But you watch Florida against a team like Missouri, and they're sending their point guard down there to grab rebounds, and that has given Florida fits. And so I think that any team, that'd be my approach. Be like, yeah, we're just going to send bodies, say, forget the fast break a little bit, just send bodies and limit those offensive possessions for a Florida team that shoots horrendously from three, but they get so many offensive rebounds that they can kind of justify still shooting them because they get all those second chance points.
Yeah. Yeah. And to me, like, I still think we've gone through a few different iterations of like what this Auburn team is trying to be. And over the last stretch here, I think they have leaned into being a little bit more physical, which I didn't have on my bingo card, but it looks natural to this team. Once again, it's been against teams that they should be able to body and, match up with physically. Florida, I think, is a different tier. I don't think you'll push back on that at all. So, like, what does that look like? What does that look like on the road in Gainesville in a game where no one is expecting you to win? And look, Keyshawn Hall, for the bulk of this season, has been one of the best scorers in the SEC. He was the best scorer in the Big 12 a year ago. He was on pace to be the best scorer in the SEC this season. Until the last two games, he's been red hot. Is he due? Does that cold streak continue? Curious to see how Florida kind of attempts to lock up Keyshawn Hall. I think that's one of the X factors in this game is which version of Keyshawn Hall do you get for Auburn?
Yeah. Zach, can I ask you a question real quick?
Sure.
How do you make a tissue dance?
You put a little boogie in it.
Yeah, Boogie Fland's going to be guarding Keyshawn Hall, I would imagine. Boogie Fland's been just a beast defensively, ton of steals lately, been the best perimeter defender for the Florida Gators, despite his black holeness sometimes on offense. But I mean, defensively, he's been bringing it. Florida, though, we mentioned the rebounding, and Auburn, the worst 3-point defense in the SEC. Florida's second worst percentage wise. So we'll see if Auburn's able to get those looks. If Keyshawn Hall is able to get those looks, I mean, shooting nearly 30% from three. I mean, he's just going to be someone that if he gets hot, it's going to be real tough for Florida to actually get those opportunities on the glass that we're looking for. But Boogie Fland is going to be the guy that I expect guarding Keyshawn Hall there.
I'm glad you brought that up because there does seem to be a thing that happens on, Auburn's quarter of the internet every time, Auburn plays. And it's like, man, it's always just some random guy lights this up from three every game. And it's like, well, like if it's happening all the time, it's something you're doing defensively. Yep. And it's interesting. I've just kind of, I've casually watched Florida a few times since conference plays began. And I'm actually surprised that they're second worst in that. But, I mean, what a prime opportunity for a team that's been so cold from shooting from deep over the last two outings. They're like 12% or something. Can Keyshawn Hall get it going? Tahaad Pettiford, notoriously better away from Neville Arena than at home. Big game Tahaad. This kind of feels like one of those games where Tahaad could be a threat to score. Kevin Overton, it's been a minute since he's really popped off, the transfer they brought in from Texas Tech. Auburn's got dudes that are capable of going off. It's just we haven't really seen that happen in a few games. And Tahaad played fine, their last time out, but Florida's a much better team. So that stat you mentioned, I mean, it seems like a good opportunity for somebody to maybe get going deep for Auburn, which hasn't happened in a few outings.
Yeah, I think that when you watch Florida, the reason it might feel different is because they don't give up a ton of the 3-point attempts, but percentage-wise, like teams are getting them, and we've seen teams be able to scheme things open against Florida's defense. They've started playing more zone, which obviously gives those opportunities. If you're going to get those looks, that's when they're going to happen. And in the second half, we've seen it quite a bit where Florida will shift to a bit of a zone. And if you're going to break it, you're going to break it. But that perimeter shooting is going to be how Auburn can make it happen. And yeah, I think that it's also just really tough, just to be honest, for Auburn, where it's tough to struggle whether you're at home or on the road and then try to find it at home or try to find it on the road. I feel like that's just really tough for a Florida team that right now they're hot, they're playing well. And it's just like, it's not easy to go onto the road and be like, oh, I've been struggling and now I've got all these hostile fans at me. And now I'm going to lock in and figure it out.
No, it is tough. It is tough. I mean, even looking at like what happened in the midweek, like if you can take a road win at all, you take it. I mean, Auburn just went to Oxford. So now they've got to turn around and go to Gainesville. Like that's tough. And I think it was a solid win at Ole Miss. I don't think Ole Miss is great, but it's tough to win on the road in this conference. It just is. It doesn't matter who you're playing. So to do that twice in a row, I mean, you would talk about a series of games that would have the potential to turn Auburn's season around if they were able to go into Gainesville and win back-to-back road games.
Yeah, I mean, to get back-to-back road games, I mean, Florida did it last week, so it has to be easy, right? Like, I feel like that one has to be easy, right? Oklahoma.
Who are they against? Who are the two road games against?
Oklahoma, then Vanderbilt. Oklahoma was a 17-point win. Vanderbilt was 4.
Yeah.
But hey, back like you said, if you could take a road win, you take that road win.
Take it, doesn't matter. Right.
If you're an underdog against Vandy.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I think that Florida right now has just been at home, haven't lost. Like they have not lost at home yet.
Tough place to win.
They really protected the paint, or they really protected their court last year. They turn it up at home, and again, that crowd is you're gonna see it. For the fans like that haven't watched a game in Gainesville, I don't know what it is, but you will hear individuals yelling more in Gainesville than any other broadcast I watch. For some reason, the way they're always set up, you hear this one specific Florida fan every week just screaming.
Interesting.
And it's gonna slip through.
All right, let's give our picks and predictions in a moment, and then just another storyline that I'm a little tired of. I'm curious to see how much we hear of it during the broadcast. That's next on this crossover edition of Locked On Gators and Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. Brandon, can you imagine wagering anywhere other than with our friends at FanDuel?
I'd rather die than even imagine it.
Yeah, I'm there with you. There's not yet a lineup as we record this show for Auburn and Florida. I imagine Florida will be like I would say 6-7.5 point favorite is kind of where, or do you think it's more?
I think it'll be more.
Oh, I did a 6-7 thing.
Yeah, you did 6-7.
But yeah, regardless, Florida will be favored. So hey, if you feel confident in Auburn, maybe consider the money line if you want to go that direction. NFL Championship Sunday, the New England Patriots 4.5 point favorites over the Denver Broncos. Seattle Seahawks, 2.5-point favorites over the LA Rams. Of course, all those teams vying for a chance to go to the Super Bowl. I got New England and Seattle. What do you think?
Yeah, both covering the spread too.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. I'd be very happy if that happened. Head over to FanDuel.com to get more info today. Today's show also brought to you by our friends at TurboTax. Can you imagine filing your taxes anywhere other with our friends at TurboTax?
Would rather die than even imagine it.
I can't imagine it either. I've said this before, like when I've done this read before, like the first few months of the year, it just kind of feels like a cloud following you. Like, you got to do your taxes.
Yeah.
You got to do your taxes. Just get it done. Get it done with our friends at TurboTax. A local TurboTax expert will do it for you. With TurboTax full service, you can have your taxes done for you by a local expert, start to finish, without having to guess. So for a limited time, you can have your taxes done for just $150 all in. If a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year, just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit TurboTax.com/local to book your appointment today. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Thank you for making Locked On Gators your first listen every single day. And if you want more of each of us, just make the other show the second listen every day. We would both greatly, greatly appreciate it. I think Florida wins by 6 or 7. I did it again. 6-7. That's kind of where I'm at. So I don't know if it'd be like 82 to 75-ish. That's kind of where I'm living in this one.
I think Florida will end up being favored by 8.5. I think they'll win by more than that. I think Florida's going to take this into double digits right now. Their defense has been mostly great outside of the Vanderbilt game. They haven't allowed, over 80 outside of the Vanderbilt game. They haven't allowed over 80 since the first game of the season against Arizona. They've been scoring in the 90s most games, especially over the past month. So yeah. I think that Florida right now, they're just on fire. It's not that I'm like, oh yeah, Florida's just so much better. Florida's just on fire right now. They're playing really good basketball, figuring things out. So I do think that they'll win by 11 or 12. It is going to be really interesting because I think this is a storyline that you were going to bring up, but Todd Golden gets to face his grandson. He gets to face his grandson and Stephen Pearl out there.
That's not exactly the storyline I was going, but the whole how close their families are and how they eat dinner together the night before. We need to stop doing that. We need to stop doing that. That needs to quit being the focus of this. I hope that's not brought up over and over and over again on the broadcast. That's what I hope.
I'll set that line at 2.5. And then the amount of times they're going to bring it up, I'll set it at 2.5.
Yeah, I ain't touching that. For sure. So, all right. So it sounds like we're kind of in agreement on the final there. So we'll see what happens. I think guys to watch for Auburn, Keyshawn Hall, Tahaad, Pettiford, or does kind of a secondary guy like Elijah Freeman. Can he, he's had games where he pops. Could this be a game for him where he goes off? We'll see. Give me 2 or 3 names for Florida to keep an eye on.
I think Ruben Chinula's got to be one for Florida. He's been the driving force of this insane run that they're on. He's just been dominant on the glass. Alex Condon hasn't even had to do that much because Chinula's just been hogging them all up. And now you're facing a team that's also very good at rebounding on both sides of the court. And so this is a whole new challenge for both sides. Both sides, we can say, hey, you haven't faced a team that rebounds the way that you rebound lately. And I think that right now, or since conference play, we'll say, I think that you haven't faced a team that rebounds the same way as you lately. And so that's going to really open things up there. And for Florida, it's also both the guards. Boogie Fland and Xavier Lee have both had games where they play really well, and they've both played games where they've just been complete black holes on offense. And if they're both going to go back to being black holes on offense, you're not going to win a lot of games. We can't have Boogie Fland shooting, 2 for 12 and 0 for 6 from 3, and Xavier Lee shooting 1 for 8 and 1 for 4 from 3. Like we can't have games like that anymore. And yet every now and then those games turn around and they show up. So you got to find some kind of consistency here, and they're both still trying to figure out their roles. It's going to be a little bit tougher. I don't think the Florida's played a team with, I don't want to say as good perimeter defenders as Auburn, but because obviously the 3-point shooting, but just be pesky at times. And I don't want to fall into bad habits there if you're Florida.
Yeah, sure. For all the Auburn folks watching, how can they get more Brandon Olson?
Locked On Gators every single day.
Yeah, for all the Florida folks watching, you can get more Auburn content. Locked on Auburn available wherever you find Locked on Gators. Please like the video. Please subscribe to Locked on Gators and Locked on Auburn. We'll see you next time. This has been a crossover edition of Locked on Auburn and Locked on Gators. Your team every day. Oh!